Mel,
Brennan,
Mel and More, episode 9 or 10, right?
9 or 10.
Getting there.
Indeed.
Getting some time under our belt.
Indeed, we are. We are. So what brings you out this fine evening?
I want to do a recap on the commission meeting from last night.
Yes.
So,
Indeed.
Jim Cybern's first real evening as a sitting city commissioner.
He was in his element.
Come prepared?
Oh, he did.
Well prepared?
He did.
Kind of ironic, you know, I covered it in the last episode, but Dwayne was quite controversial in the idea that Jim would only be focused on the East Chestnut Bridge, because that was kind of the premise of his campaign or appointment bid, that was going to be his main focus. And right or wrong, Dwayne was turned off by that and was all for and needed Judge Jenkins, and asked Jim, or told Jim, he may have even told him that, you know, hey, not only will you run everything by Nick, but you will also focus on the things that aren't related to the bridge. And I think Dwayne got a little more than he asked for, because Jim showed up last night well prepared, over the top in terms of prepared compared to the regular commissioner.
Well, the contention was obvious.
Oh boy, it was interesting.
I mean, it was in the air. You could see the contention. And he wore his lime green shirt of aggression.
I think both of them needed baby aspirin.
It's fine. I mean,
it got to the point where I was laughing out loud between watching Dwayne and listening to Jim. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Even Anita Judge Jenkins was laying laying her head down on her hand in the audience, and I don't know if she was mesmerized by the dialogue that's taking place, or
I was surprised she was there.
No, she was.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's probably because we called her out and said, "Hey, you guys don't show up. You need to show up."
And you know, and really, if politics it's a bipartisan everything. There's no partisan politics, and we're looking for assets. But be who you are.
Sure.
Be like Jim. Don't be like me. Be like Jim. Well, he is who he is.
He definitely didn't sugarcoat anything last night. So the big topic that took place last night was the State Historical Preservation Organization, short as they call it, SHPO.
Yeah, SHPO.
Yeah.
State Historical Preservation Board, our office.
I don't know what the last O is, but it should be outrageous.
State Historical Preservation Office.
Should be outrageous.
Well, it is and it's so counterproductive, and I don't know why everybody can't see it. I mean, we don't have 500-year-old castles we're trying to protect. We've got crappy built buildings from the turn of the century, and they're poorly built. And holding this historically accurate stuff, you got a tin-faced building falling apart. You got soft limestone spalling off these buildings. You got windows that are inefficient, inadequate, don't work, broken out. God, for God's sakes, let the people fix this stuff. This happened to...
Jim's point was, as pompous as he was and all his elements of ownership over the years of being a property owner, is that none of the people on the board, on the SHPO board, locally or in Topeka, from his perspective, should have a dog in the fight, because they don't own any property, you know, and they're not affected by the rules that they're making, which, you know, welcome to government, Jim. That's just the way it works. But long and short of it, he was right in the sense that
absolutely,
he's been through this firsthand, and it may have been even a guy like you that tried to hold him accountable for fixing up them crappy old buildings when he owned them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we passed an ordinance against these windows. The place falling apart, and
you have another butt of it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it became apparent when WB Meats and Roger Sparks are trying to build their buildings, and the state and local historical preservation people won't let them. They just wouldn't let them. And it manifested themselves that actually the windows that Jim had in that beautiful building, the tin that they had over them, was actually legal. And it was a problem. So, the tin's legal, but putting a good window there is not. And it was the most bizarre thing. It made no sense whatsoever. You can put plywood or tin over it as long as you don't alter the real window. Well, the real window may or may not exist. It was just insane. It was just insanity on all levels. How anybody in their right mind could embrace this is just beyond me.
So anyhow, Jim went to argument about that. He came well prepared. He brought all these pictures, all these buildings from downtown, and how they've deteriorated, and business owners have tried to take care of them. Everybody from Schmidt Jewelers to Arc City Tire to, I don't know, you named several, right? And had photos of different places there in town. And interestingly enough, he obviously, I don't know when he had provided this PowerPoint that he created of these photos to the city, but he must have done it a little bit earlier in the day. Because it sure stunk to me. I don't know if you picked up on this, but it felt like that Jim provided this, whether it was Monday or Sunday, or maybe it was even Tuesday, yesterday, in the early AM or something, where he provided this. And
you mean his presentation?
His presentation and his angle of how he was going to address this in front of the board and the commission. And Nick, obviously, whether it was in defense mode or I don't know what mode he is in, but he went to work getting Phosphera in there, Josh White, Mike Crandall, all these guys are city staff or city employees or board members to basically defend their position on this SHPO thing. And it felt to me like, I don't know, it felt subversive in nature. It felt to me subversive.
Even before we got to that point, when they were start talking about 8th Street, the chip seal job on 8th Street, when Tony Tapia and Crandall were there, but which goes back to the whole thing, the whole premise of the city's approach to these problems, where instead of addressing the problem and fixing the problem, we come up with some kind of a sentence.
Oh, did you see the paper where Andrew Lawson, I don't know if those were his words or somebody provided them to, but he had a whole laundry list of nonsense of why it was so dusty.
Excuses.
It was the weather, it was this and that. And when Tony got up there, he cleared the air. He said, listen, we got the chat locally. We didn't go to Baxter Springs, Kansas like we normally do. It's not as good a chat. He was upfront about it. He was honest about it. He said, I'm sorry, neighbors of 8th Street, we didn't buy the best stuff we could have. It wasn't because we didn't want to, but we had a window of opportunity to get the job done. And, he was the most honest person there last night.
And that carried the day. Everybody was happy. Everybody was more than satisfied.
Even the guy that came there to bitch was happy.
He was. He said,
and he even put on
I understand it. I understand that,
The guy put on Facebook today, hey, here's the update.
Yeah.
Here's what they said.
The flim-flam in the paper, which were blatant, either they didn't know the truth or they're lying. I can't tell which it was. Either they really didn't know.
I can't imagine Andrew made all that up on his own.
What are you saying?
I'm just saying I don't think he made that stuff up. I think he was
Even you think he's prompted to say those things? He might have been.
Some of those.
But obviously the street department didn't tell him to say that.
No. I don't know. Maybe they decided to come clean.
Well, and they did the right thing.
The dust was too thick.
They did.
They decided to come clean.
The smoke, but there wasn't enough dust to cover up the.
But no, Tony was literally the most honest person there,
and kudos to him because that's what he should do. It's all right to screw up.
Yeah, everybody does it.
Everybody's going to do it. That's right.
And then they had the whole the ordinance around social media policy.
Yeah,
because Chad was there. It was Chad's fault. Chad Beeson, poor guy. But no, Chad. They wrote that whole policy about you. I know they did it. I'm kidding. I'm sure you weren't the only one.
Well, the social media, I get it because the things on Facebook go two ways, either brutally honest or spiteful and attacking out of ignorance. And Chad getting butthurt about what he construed as an attack against not only what they did but their integrity. I get it. I understand being pissed off about that. I understand.
Yeah, but everybody involved with that whole deal, everybody's intentions is genuine. They're good. It's not like they're Chad's trying to help out the city. He's trying to defend the city. He's trying to do the right thing, and so.
And the people bitching.
I don't think they're. I don't think
they had a legitimate complaint.
Oh, they did.
They had a real complaint.
But they just want what's best.
Yeah. Yeah. They all live here. Everybody lives here. We all live here. and it's real easy if you're going to stick your head out there. Somebody's out there to cut it off.
Oh, sure.
So when you do, and sometimes people look for something to brighten up their life by attacking yours, and that's just human nature for a lot of people, myself included.
Yeah, opportunist, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, enough of that on that, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
it's a dead horse. It's a moot point. Tony did a damn good job.
I was glad Chad was there.
Yeah, and
Shows a little character for me. He showed up.
he showed up. He showed up, and hopefully he's enlightened a little bit. Also, it's a bigger scheme. You know, it's not against him.
No, it's not.
It's
Not
not
even
against
a
street
little bit.
department. It's the kind, and of course, to their defense, when they didn't know.
Did you see the poll that Philip Herder put out on Facebook?
Yeah.
How many people?
I didn't read. I didn't.
Oh,
see
it's
the
so
numbers.
great. I need to get on there and vote at some point here. But how many people say Chad Beeson should be allowed back on this page? And there's literally like hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And he should be from my perspective.
I don't
But
know.
it ain't my page, so whatever.
I don't know. Whatever transgressions they were, if they felt strong enough. I think Chad went hand in hand and said, "Look, you got to understand where I'm coming from. I understand. I see where you're coming from. That you don't like the contention, but where I'm coming from, that was direct attack on me. What I had done, my world, my world wraps around this.
And I'm glad he takes his job that serious.
No kidding. Yeah.
So Jim was obviously over intense. Him and Dwayne butted heads all night, and that went on for an hour, right?
He talked for an hour.
He talked for an hour.
Which
I think he did a fair job, and I'm going to give him a little more credit. I think he did a good job. Where I think he fell short, and I want to hear your opinion as well, but I think he fell short in one aspect. On the SHPO deal, he lost sight of what he was trying to accomplish, and partially I blame that because he probably wasn't prepared that Nick and company were going to go throwing all these counterattacks back at him, but he lost sight of his end goal. His end goal was either abolish the SHPO thing altogether and or table it for 90 days, and kind of change his motion during the course of the meeting, which was unusual, but he's new to it. That's what you can kind of expect. And he was so intent on winning the argument, he lost sight of what he was trying to accomplish. And all he did was piss off Dwayne. He did that pretty quickly on. Jay and Karen were so exhausted with the conversation, along with everybody else out in the audience, including, us included. You were sitting behind me for most of it, but it was exhausting. And he lost sight of his goal. And I do think Nick was somewhat subversive in nature on the way they counterattacked him. But what kind of advice would you give Jim on that ordeal? Because for his first debut, he did a great job.
He probably learned it. He learned what my takeaway, what I would have learned from that, was his studies were not lost. What he brought in there with his in-depth review when he comes over the PowerPoint on this thing, which is I've never seen that done by a commissioner before. Now, I've seen him take a few pictures and hand them out. I used to take pictures and hand them to the commissioners, but I never had a PowerPoint, which was a very good idea, great tool.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Everybody can see what's going on. It's not just among the commissioners. So he took out that's a good idea, but I think that he saw, or I'm assuming that he saw, just stick on the very narrow subject and make them answer one or two questions. Don't make it so broad. Don't make it so broad. He just brought too many things to the table. And everybody's a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But they had no counterpoint. They really didn't have a reason.
Here's another thing too, and I wish you'd have focused on this a little bit more too. And with the new business, and this is still a pet peeve of mine. All you commissioners that watch this, you gotta focus on this. This is a big deal, unless it's a pressing object. And that deal that they brought to the commission last night, it had already expired. It wasn't that pressing on the SHPO deal, on their to be a CGL or whatever the hell they call that. But the thing is give new business 2 looks. Don't just immediately pass it. Oh, I looked at it, we got to pass it. No, let's look at it again. Even if it's in a work session and you do something, you look at it in a work session and you do something at a meeting, at least you've had 2 opportunities to look at it, and you're discrediting and dismissing the opportunity of people that weren't at the meeting that are your constituents to say, hey, I heard about Shippo. It was a new business that showed up on the agenda, and you guys voted it passed it through, and quite frankly, you didn't give business owners in town an opportunity to reach out to you or anything other than.
Yeah, they should never make a move on the first viewing.
No, it's ridiculous, and
Ever.
nothing's that important unless we're, it's just really not.
There's nothing that's that important. Everything can wait. In the world of the bureaucrats.
And most good decisions aren't made
Absolutely.
instantly.
Absolutely.
You think about it and you ponder on it, and
it's not life or death. You're not. It's just pointless to view it as such that it has to be done right now. Maybe it's easier, and I know it's a lot easier for staff to just do it right now because that way they don't have to handle the paperwork again and they get their point across without. A lot of times the in-depth studies expose stuff that a lot of times they don't want exposed. And one of the things that might have exposed was the value of SHPO. What is the value? Well, I still don't know what the value is. They talk about tax credits, which only adheres to these huge projects, multi-million-dollar projects. A small project is absolutely
they used the Burford as an example, which was a $6 million.
$6 million project. Yeah.
Well, tell me one business owner in Arc City alone that's put $6 million on a project, and it sure as hell wasn't downtown.
You could not to throw $6 million in one of those buildings was a total waste of money. No, only a fool would invest that kind of money unless they've got lots of money to invest in it, and they don't care. They're just trying to get rid of money for a tax dodge or something like that. Like the guy that bought the AC office building. So it was a tax dodge to him.
So obviously, Dwayne was certainly turned off by Jay's approach. Karen,
you mean by Jim's approach?
Excuse me, Jim's approach, not Jay.
Well, turned off, but worse than that, he dug his heels in. He was not. He wasn't open to anything.
So you got a strong ox in there with like Jim. What kind of advice would you give these other commissioners to how to handle him? I think he's a really good resource for them.
Well, don't handle him. Either outsmart him, or if he's got a good idea, go with him. Oh, don't be afraid of siding with him.
Oh, really?
I know it's not going to ever happen that way. And I'm always amazed the way they take sides based on some kind of fanciful idea. The forward progress of the city is more important than your singular quest for a feather in your cap or glory or sitting up there bobbleheading and trying to look pretty. This is just not why we're here, or they're there, and that's not where we're here.
That's true.
Yeah, if we were supposed to look pretty, it would have been you and somebody else.
All in all, I thought he did a fair job. Maybe good. Probably good job.
Well, first time there, and I liked the abrupt bluntness.
Oh yeah.
He said, "Well, wait a minute," and we'd make him explain things and talk about things, whatever it was. He would say, "Well, this is what's cranking in my mind," and the rest of them are standing there kind of glazed over.
So Ganger kind of backed him up a little bit. Not in full force by any means, but I thought she did a good job backing him up, and to me, I'm sure that's going to build a little bridge there for them to.
And I hope it does
to get along and work out. But I really think all of them commissioners can find some common ground on some projects, and it's unfortunate the SHPO such a crappy first topic to really get into.
Oh, I think it's the perfect first topic.
Do you?
And
I don't get it.
I'll tell you why.
I'd like to see them win something together. First off.
Well, the first topic being that Jim had such an in-depth knowledge of it, having dealt with it most of his life. All of a sudden, he comes not the first choice to be there. A lot of people didn't want him there, and because for that very reason.
Is that one of them good cigars that just won't stay lit? Is that how that works? The better they are, the least likely they are to stay lit. Do we have any Cuban viewers that can comment on what an actual Cuban cigar is like?
This is Dominican Cuban seed.
Sure.
It is. It is a La Ford Dominica, which is these are good cigars. These are probably $1.40, $1.60 maybe.
There you go.
Which is a real price. These are. Well, I'm not. Why would I talk cigars with you? What would be the point? You don't smoke cigars.
You can't keep them lit.
Well, they're like women. You got to keep a fire. You got to keep them lit up all the time. to really get the satisfaction you want, you got to keep it lit up. You know what I'm saying?
I guess.
Back to that hand. Jim comes out there talking. So many times they'll listen, they'll have just one little menial question and not asking for a retort of any sort. They just ask something minor like, oh, what color are those? Or something just absolutely, who cares?
Or a comment like, this is a long time coming. We've really been looking forward to this.
It's in the budget. What's in the budget?
It's a long time coming.
And so to get somebody up there that doesn't know how to play the game right. And he gets in there and blasts it with all this stuff and then shows his PowerPoint. They're all going, oh, you can see them breaking their pencils and clicking on their phones. And
so Mayor Warren, him and Jim got a ton of history together. They've known each other for
the whole life.
For 30 or 40 years, right?
Except for Kenny, and everybody up there knows each other forever, yeah.
So it's kind of funny to see how it all shake out. But yeah, it was definitely one you guys should have went. And there was actually several. I think I counted 10 citizens there this week. So
yeah,
including us. So a few more productivity. So that's great.
Yeah,
appreciate people going.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we're going to try to keep you informed, even if you choose not to go. Or at least give you our
take on
our
it.
Take. I mean, which doesn't mean it's right, but if you want to have your own take, you should go and come on Mell more and argue with us.
Oh, if it wasn't right, I don't think we would say it.
I bet Foss would come on here.
Foss would be great on here.
He could tell us all about the railroad, the Amtrak coming to Arc City, and SHPO.
He could tell everybody how much he hates me and all the horrible things I've done for the town. It was a constant. We were doing the railroad deal, and he wanted to salvage this railroad building. Here we got 4 brick walls and no roof. And Foss, this is not salvage. Oh yeah, it could be. Well, it could be done, but what's the point? The historical value is only local. It has no national historic value at all, because there's 1 or 2 of these railroads in every town in America, and there's what, 10,000 towns in America or more?
So Josh White or Foss Fair, I don't remember who, brought up the point. There's only 16 cities out of the, 500 and some in the state of Kansas, or I have no idea how many cities are, but I know there's north of 500. We're one of 16 that has this historic statute where we can make our own rules and we get this home rule effect.
Well, originally it was a prestige thing, like, oh, we're on the historical rolls, the national historical rolls. It was a prestige thing where look, we've got buildings. Our whole downtown is a historic downtown.
Okay.
Well, exactly.
But in 1 minute, the damn people on the city staffs, we want to be like Derby. We want to be like Wichita. And then the next breath, they're saying we want to be like a historic dirt town of Kansas. I mean, you guys got an identity crisis.
If the intended purpose of this building had stayed the same throughout the years, that'd be fine.
It was so historical. That hospital was pretty historical. They abandoned that thing like a bad habit and went north 5 miles of town and built that thing out of non-historical type materials. In fact, it was built like a barn.
Yeah, it's a metal.
It's a metal building.
Red iron frame building.
So
with the facade.
I don't know. It's just kind of funny. A little bit of identity crisis.
And identity crisis, and the realization that most of those downtown buildings, maybe some of them are beyond repair. When you get to the point when you look at the roof structures on it, plus to occupy the second story, you have to have fire protection. Well, you can't have fire protection for any cheap price, and why bother the fire protection when the roof's caving in, the back wall's falling out?
And that's also a funny thing, because it's not like there was fire protection in the buildings in their historical state. So why, it's kind of like they talk out of both sides of their mouth. Oh, well, we want air conditioning and we want fire protection, but we want it to be historical. Well, that's not historical. It's like going camping in a camper. It's not camping.
It's called a camper. Yes, it is.
No, it's not camping.
It's called a camper to go camping.
Ah, God.
See, that's why you're a SHPO guy and I'm not, because I recognize the value of modern technology. But back to the core issue of the whole SHPO thing. There's not a building there that can pass a modern building code examination or a structural evaluation. None of them can pass it. They're all in such bad shape. And of course, this is like the 3rd downtown there's been in Arc City. Fires have decimated Arc City numerous times. I think the only probably the only really original building is that one across the street from Bricks, the one that Jim Warren used, or
Cyber?
Jim Seibert used to own. It's a beautiful stone building, but it was built, period, and they were built different for a different purpose, and it was also a subterranean building. The original building was 20% below ground.
You know, Dan, your coach,
Yeah,
he's in that building.
he owns that building now, yes.
And he was against the SHPO stuff.
And he
But he's a
should be.
business owner, and he
Right.
gets it.
And he owns a building downtown.
And he owns a building downtown. He was against it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm against it because it's just so impractical. It's just, and nobody's going to, we're not talking tearing the building down. So they say change the look of the building. Shit, the roof's falling off of it, and you want me to go back with a tar paper roof? Is that what you really want?
so we never did say, but for the record, Jim made a motion to, what, disbar it or table it?
90
table
days,
it,
at least,
table
yeah.
it, table it for 90 days. Kenyon seconded it. It fell flat. The other, Dwayne made a motion to pass this deal, and now we're a CLG again for another 5 years, and we can be a SHPO rock star, one of 16 in the state of Kansas. Passed 3-2. Jay, Dwayne, and Karen passed that SHPO for our city, Kansas. So.
But what I was not clear to me is why they passed it. What was the point?
Well, Dwayne did it because he was mad at Jim. He had his heels dug in.
And why did the other two go along with him? Because that's the old guard. Because they want to maintain.
I think they're
that.
tired of listening to Jim.
Well, that is,
Like, let's
he
get this
talked
let's
way
get this
too damn
thing
long.
over.
And he, too much self gratification. I own this building. I did this. I did that. He doesn't. He has to have more confidence. Everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, he doesn't need to
He doesn't
recap
need to tell
all his
anybody that
accolades.
stuff. Yeah, he really doesn't.
He doesn't.
He really does.
He's
not.
he, as a businessman, he's accomplished more than any one of those guys
And-
on the panel.
And I think that's what really sets him apart from the rest of them as a businessman. You know, and his thought is, we got to make this thing work. It has to make a profit because there's no such thing as free money. There's no thing as free anything.
There's not free money. Tell me more about free money.
If I had free money, I'd
Share it with your
throw
friends?
mine away. If I had free money, I'd hoard it all. Nobody else would get any.
I know better.
If I had a free
Hey, we got to stop this thing. We're at 27 minutes.
shit.
This is
Well-
ridiculous. We're gonna have to reshoot this probably.
We do. We're going to have to reshoot it. Because
Sorry, folks.
I think there's a couple great points that we haven't got into, which I think we should lead into it. Now, we did talk about 8th Street. But I think we need to include with that 8th Street talk, let's make that 1/3 of it and the other 2/3 about what we've been talking about. But the 1/3 should be, are we expecting too much out of these city crews? They don't pay them shit. They don't pay them anything. They pay them peanuts. My guys, I wouldn't expect them to work for that money. And granted, the benefits are great, but it's hard putting a loaf of bread on the table with benefits. Or what does Chad need benefits for? The guy's healthy. Well, not physically healthy, I mean. And I'm sure that the Chad story's not over.
I'm sure we'll have more. Anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Mel Moore, signing off.
Ciao.